Entry-level hiring at the Big Four collapsed by 44% the moment ChatGPT launched. Youth unemployment is climbing in 8 of the world's richest economies, while total employment hits record highs. This isn't a recession, it's a generational lockout, and the data shows AI is the trigger. Look at youth unemployment across the advanced world since 2000. For 2 decades, it tracked the business cycle, up in 2008, up in 2020, recovering after each shock. Then 2023 happened. ChatGPT launched in November 2022. By mid-2023, youth unemployment in the UK started climbing. In Canada, it jumped from 9.7% to over 13%. In Germany, it broke a 15-year downtrend. South Korea's youth unemployment is now triple its national average. France sits above 17%. The pattern is too synchronized to be coincidence. 8 different economies, 8 different labor laws, 8 different education systems, all bending the same way at the same moment. Something hit the floor of the white-collar pyramid simultaneously across the developed world. That something writes code, drafts memos, summarizes contracts, and builds spreadsheets. It's not a mystery what changed. Here's the obvious counter. The economy always punishes young workers first. This is just normal. Wrong. Compare youth unemployment to total unemployment in the same countries. Total unemployment in the US is near a 50-year low. The UK's overall jobless rate is barely moving. Germany, France, Japan, Australia, total employment looks healthy or excellent. The aggregate labor market is fine, but the gap between youth and total unemployment is widening to historic levels. In the UK, young workers are now 3x more likely to be unemployed than the general workforce. In France, the gap hit a 20-year high. This isn't a tide that lifts and drops all boats. This is older workers staying employed while the entry door gets welded shut. The economy isn't sick, it's sorting. Unemployment numbers undercount the damage. They only track people actively looking for work. The deeper metric is NEET. Not in employment, education, or training. Young people who've stopped searching, stopped studying, stopped trying. In Italy, the NEET rate sits near 19%. The US hovers around 13%. The UK climbed back above 12% in 2023, reversing a decade of progress. Across the OECD, roughly 1 in 8 people aged 15 to 24 is fully disconnected from the economy. That's tens of millions of humans. They're not lazy. They graduated into a market where the analyst job, the paralegal job, the junior copywriter job, the entry-level coder job, the rungs you climb from, got automated before they arrived. You can't gain experience at a position that no longer exists. Now, the decoupling. Historically, GDP growth and youth opportunity move together. Economy grows, companies hire juniors, ladder works. Look at the last 3 years. The US grew 2.5% in 2023. Canada grew. Australia grew. The UK eked out positive growth. Korea expanded. Yet in every one of these economies, youth unemployment rose or NEET rates climbed. This has never happened at this scale in the post-war record. GDP is no longer dragging young workers up with it. The growth is real. It's just being captured by capital, by AI infrastructure, by senior workers leveraging tools to do junior work. The economy is producing more output per worker because it needs fewer workers at the bottom. Gen Z is being asked to celebrate a recovery they're not invited to. Here's the smoking gun. R&D spending as a share of GDP, the cleanest proxy for how much an economy is pouring into automation, AI, and software, has surged in exactly the countries where youth opportunity is collapsing fastest. South Korea spends nearly 5% of GDP on R&D, the highest in the world. Its youth unemployment is triple its national rate. The US crossed 3.5%. Germany broke 3%. The correlation is brutal. More tech investment, more entry-level destruction. Companies aren't replacing senior strategists with AI. They're replacing the analysts who used to become senior strategists. Goldman Sachs estimated 300 million jobs are exposed globally, and the most exposed are exactly the entry-level cognitive tasks Gen Z was trained for. The investment isn't future-facing. The damage is already booked. The verdict is clear. AI didn't replace senior workers. It deleted the apprenticeship. The first job, the analyst seat, the junior associate role, those weren't just paychecks. They were the only mechanism by which a 22-year-old becomes a 32-year-old professional. We bulldozed the bottom rung and called it productivity. The data shows 8 advanced economies producing record GDP, record R&D spending, and record disconnection of young workers simultaneously. This is not a cycle. It's a structural break. Gen Z isn't lazy, isn't entitled, isn't unprepared. They graduated into the first economy in modern history that doesn't need beginners. And until policymakers admit that, the lockout gets worse every quarter. If you want the economy explained in charts instead of vibes, subscribe. We run the numbers, we take a side, and we don't waste your time. New data breakdown every week.